Please welcome founder and creative director of Stoned Cherry, Nkensane Nkosi.
Our Lord is the African music. When you turn into the music of the people, here's the people's music, by the people's culture.
Good afternoon, beautiful people. Wow, is it just me or is the energy and the love in here palpable? There's something beautiful that happens when women gather and have meaningful conversations. What a morning we've had. We've talked about so many critical issues, and I hope that you're all feeling energized and edified. I'm delighted to be moderating our final session, which is a celebration of the best of South Africa. Creativity, feeding the soul. Throughout humanity, art has been a medium for celebration, freedom of expression, as well as protest and grief. From Matisse's celebratory painting, The Dance, to the edgy music of Pussy Riot in Russia, artists and writers have given voice to the joys and the pains of their people. South Africa has been a nexus of creative brilliance and protest art from authors like Nadine Gordimer, Breyten Breitenbach, and J.M. Coetzee, and musicians like Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, Pretty Yende, and a Grammy Award-winning Lebo. These artists challenged systems, they've preserved our histories, and reshaped cultural identities in the most beautiful and moving ways. We are joined this afternoon by three luminaries who share their journeys and help us to unpack and understand the transformational power of art. So Margaret Busby, born in Ghana, she was Britain's youngest and first black female publisher when she co-founded Allison and Busby in the 1960s. She was the editor of two groundbreaking anthologies championing the work of more than 400 women of African descent over several centuries. She's an honorary fellow of the Royal Society of Literature and recipient of multiple honorary doctorates and awards. In 2021, she was appointed a commander of the Order of the British Empire. Her own collected writings, part of the story, Writings from Half a Century, will be released in March 2026, and we can't wait. She also has a copy of her book on sale just outside the ballroom, New Daughters of Africa, The New Daughters of Africa, so please get yourself a copy. Please help me welcome the great Margaret Busby. Take your seat. Thandiswa Mazwai, King Ta, as we affectionately call her, is one of the most influential post-apartheid singers in South Africa. She began her career in 1996 with the pioneering Kwaito band Bongo Muffin. Her solo work has been both extremely popular, winning awards including the Kora Award for Best African Female and 4 South African Music Awards. Thandiswa has performed at many international venues, including the Apollo Theatre, the Lincoln Center, the Cannes Film Festival, and BBC World Music Awards. Please help me welcome Ms. Thandiswa Mazwai. Mamleta Mbulu is one of South Africa's artistic icons. She started singing as a teenager in the 1960s and joined the famous African Jazz and Variety Company. In 1964, she left for the United States to escape apartheid, where she became deeply involved in protest theater and the anti-slavery movement. In New York, she connected with other exiles, including Miriam Makeba and Hugh Masekela. Her work was featured prominently in the soundtracks of The Color Purple and Roots, for which she received an Emmy Award for her performance. Definitely worth applauding. The late Quincy Jones once described her as the roots lady, projecting a sophistication and warmth which stirs hope and for attaining pure love, beauty, and unity in the world. Please help me welcome Leta Mbulu. Thank you. Wow, this is incredible. This is incredible. I am so honored to be having this moment here with you. But before we begin, as a reminder, I'd like to ask all of you to please submit questions on the conference app. We'll get to as many of them as we can before the end of the session. Now, in advance of the conference, IWF members weighed in on the topic of creativity via our Global Members Leadership Poll, IWF Pulse. We asked you, are the best leaders more creative? 86% said yes, they can visualize the art of the possible. 1% said no, creativity isn't important to leadership. And 13% remain unsure. Interesting statistics. Margaret, I would like to start with you. Can you take us back to the first novel that you published in 1969? I think it was with Sam Greenlee.
That was the first novel we published. First of all, I'm just so empowered to be here, and thank you for having me here. And wow, what a room full of wonderful people.
Yes.
Well, Sam Greenlee's The Puka Sat by the Door was the first novel I published in 1969. But I'd actually started publishing before that with poetry in 1967, 3 paperback poetry books, because my partner and I wanted to publish books that young people like us could afford, because I was only about 2 at the time, of course. So The Spooker Sat by the Door was a novel that had been turned down by most publishers on both sides of the Atlantic. And a friend of my then late husband, who actually was a jazz musician, but this friend bumped into this African American on an island in Greece and heard the story about Sam Greenlee trying to get this novel published and said, well, I know somebody who started the publishing company. So Sam came to London and I borrowed some £50 so he could stay there. And this was our first novel that Alison Busby published. And we wanted to get it to a wide audience because it had a powerful political message. It was actually a sort of diversity parable about the CIA being accused of not having any black employees, so they employ this wonderful black man who can show how diverse they are, if you like.
Right.
And he does his job very well, but he's also organizing street warfare, guerrilla activity in Chicago. So, and it was published in 1969 for the first time. It was actually reprinted last year.
I'm so curious to know what it was like to publish. You were so young. You were black, you were female, and you were young.
Yes.
In that period, tell us, what was it like? What gave you the guts to do it?
Well, I think it was exactly that. I was too young to know I shouldn't be doing it. And I think also it's a good time. You have ideals. You probably you have no money, but you have no debts maybe. So we just did what we wanted to do. And my partner, Clive Allison, he was just a business partner. People assumed that we must be married. No, we were not. And I was married to a penniless jazz musician. And so it was trying to get, first of all, we didn't have full-time. We didn't do it full-time to start with.
Right.
We both had to get jobs with other publishing companies. So I applied for jobs. I applied for a job by post. I got an interview by post. I turned up at the interview They said, there's a black girl here who says she's got an interview.
Wow.
So that was the climate. So it was not the done thing.
Sometimes it takes just a little bit of naivety. I think
Exactly.
we shouldn't ever lose that naivety, because then you take chances and you're brave.
You take chances because you don't know you're not meant to.
Exactly. Do you think you would have had an easier time publishing it today, or is that an obvious question?
Well, publishing that particular book, well, the thing is, things are going backwards and they're going forwards and they're going backwards. Because when you mentioned the anthology I published, the latest one, New Daughters of Africa, and that was first published in hardback in 2019.
Right.
And when I was promoting it around British festivals for the then publisher, I was talking to some people after the festival, and this woman said they'd had a talk from a mainstream publisher who'd been talking about normal books and diverse books. And that was in 2019. And then the whole narrative shifted a bit with the Black Lives Matter movement, and after the death of George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd. But I think now, in a way, we're going back. Because the number of black writers who suddenly were published after the Black Lives Matter movements came to the fore has gone down. So it's not that things are getting any easier. We have learned lessons. We know that we can do things, and we need to think we can do things for ourselves.
Absolutely. Mamleta, you left this country in 1964. I mean, Thandiswa and I were not even ideas then. And there you were, performing on world stages. You left when South Africa was still completely under apartheid. You stayed in the United States for 26 years. How did your experience in exile influence your iconic music?
First of all, I would like to let everybody that I've written some of my questions, and rather my answers, because I'm too old now to be in a place like this, and I forget. So I hope you will forgive me for writing them down.
No problem.
Okay.
Go ahead. Anything you say, Ma. We love you and adore you.
I think the exposure to other musicians from performing, rather exposing, I think exposure to other musicians performing music from their own countries, such as samba by Sivuca from Brazil, salsa by Celia Cruz from Cuba, calypso by Harry Belafonte from Jamaica, social comment, political songwriter, Nina Simone, Southern USA, and of course our own Miriam Makeba from South Africa. All of them made me feel and realize that South African music, like Mbaqanga and other genres, can also be taken to another level.
Yes, absolutely. And the transatlantic slave trade is one of the things that you focused on a lot while you were in the United States. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? Why did you think it was important to do that?
The knowledge about the transatlantic slave trade made me painfully realize that South African colonialism and apartheid were part of the same European imperialism that was accompanied by dispossession and oppression of people of color, such as Africans, Asians, Native Americans, etc., etc., etc.
So it was important for you to give expression to that.
Yes, yes, yes.
You told us such a phenomenal story. We had the privilege to come and enjoy tea at Mamleta's home with Thandiswa and Mama Mjangu. I call her Mama Mjangu, Advocate Gumbi. And you told us such a beautiful story about your grandmother. Oh, if you could share that with our audience, please. I know I'm taking us off but it was such a lovely story that you told us about your grandmother and telling you, these are your people. This is a story you need to tell.
Yeah. Before I went to the United States in 1964, my mother told me this story. She said, "You're going to America now, but remember, all those people are your people. They were taken from this country, from this continent, to the United States. So when you see them, greet them for all of us. And tell them, we love them." And I was very surprised. I mean, am I going to tell people that I don't know?
Entire community.
Yeah, so, but anyway, she left a very important message.
Yes.
Yes.
And gave you such a profound sense of purpose.
Yes.
So when you wrote many rains ago, Olua, with Quincy Jones in 1976, this is our girl, moving and shaking in the world. You were still in exile, but you were really still very deeply connected to South Africa's struggles. Please share with us, take us back. How was that creative process working with Quincy, and what did you want to achieve?
Quincy was an amazing producer. And working with him made me feel I have arrived. It was really that important. And when he asked me to do the song that I recorded with him, because I had already done it, he heard me sing it. I didn't even know that he had been to my concerts and heard the song. So when the movie came up, he decided that he wants the song to be done in the movie. So actually, when he said that I was not even home, he told Caiaphas I was in West Africa. So Caiaphas related the message to me, and I said, okay, I'm coming in 2 weeks. And we'll go to the studio, and I'll hear what you have to say, what Quincy has to do. And when I went in, Quincy said, you must do this song. I heard this song, I heard you do this song backstage. And I want you to do it in a movie called Roots. My mind went back. I thought about my mother.
Yes.
I thought about the story. Okay, so I'm singing Ishe Olua. You want me to do that song? I said, Lord, my trip to this country had a purpose.
Absolutely.
I was sent to do this. And I was very, very elated and scared at the same time, because Quincy was like a big producer. We went into the studio, and he said, you know, I would like the song to be in English, because I was singing it in Yoruba. He said, I want it to be done in English, and I have written the words in English. So please learn the words in English, and then we can do it. I said, okay, fine. We went into the studio. I worked on the song for maybe we made about 40 takes.
40.
Yes, that's how he works. And at the last minute, the 40th tape, he said to me, come in and listen. You know, he made me look, I really felt so tired. I was beginning to say, you know what, let's forget this, it's not working. He said at the last 40th tape, he said, come in and listen. I went in, and I had already had an attitude that time. Mm-hmm. I didn't really want to hear anything. You know, I was just hoping that he doesn't tell me to go back and repeat it again. And when I opened the door, the booth in the recording booth, he played it. I said, "Who's that?" Mm. He said, "Slera." I said, "Me?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I said, "But I've never heard myself sound so good." Mm. That's amazing.
Well, that just speaks to how brilliant a producer he was.
Yes, he was he was so amazing, but I was totally beat. I was tired,
Right.
and I didn't want to hear it, you know.
But he managed to mine that gold.
Yes, yes, he did. Yes,
fantastic.
He did. Mm-hmm.
Thandiswa, King Ta. One day you'll tell us why you're King Ta, but I love it. The New York Times called you the voice of South Africa's first post-apartheid generation. That's major. How did growing up in Soweto under apartheid and then experiencing the launch of democracy influence your work? Because we're that generation, you know, our kids might think apartheid was urban legend.
Yeah.
But we used to walk out of our homes and there'd be armored vehicles.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd witness a necklacing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we had the privilege of being born into a new dispensation post-1994. Has that influenced your work in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess what it does is it's kind of, it encapsulates this duality that I think our generation sort of, and people that were older than us, you know, where you have this memory of apartheid, the violence, the racism, but you also have the memory of that moment, that very magical moment where you woke up one day and they said, today you're free, today. It has happened. You know, my mother died before 1992, before. And so she did not experience that feeling, that freedom, you know. We didn't know that we would ever get this freedom. You know, it was a battle that we knew could take hundreds of years, but it was a battle we were ready for, you know, and so even then we didn't know. You know, I was born in 1976, and so my formative years are in that kind of last few years of apartheid. And there's massive fervor in the youth to change things, you know. So I'm born March of 76. There's a Gugulethu massacre. In June of 76, there's a massacre in Soweto. So all of these things are like, they become a part of my upbringing, this violence, but also the resistance, the language of resistance. You know, my parents were part of the Pan-Africanist Congress. And so, you know, when people would greet each other, they would raise their hand and say, Izwe lethu. So it wouldn't be hello. It would be Izwe lethu, and the answer would be I-Africa. Or somebody, if you see somebody, you would say, oh, daughter of the soil. Or you say, son of the soil, you know. And for me as a young person, these words started to build in me this idea of resistance, you know, and that I belonged to this place, you know, that I am a daughter of this soil, and that Izweletu was not just this point in Africa, but all of Africa, you know. So that all that upbringing just kind of politicizes me as a young person. And my mother passed away when I was 16 years old, and so I became quite obsessed with everything that she had taught me. My mother, anytime I said to my mother, I'm bored, she'd say, read Fanon. She'd say, read Chinua Achebe. Don't tell me you're bored, read, you know. And so that, all of those teachings that my mother and the community around me, that begins to infiltrate and come into my work, especially when I've become acutely aware of the fact that freedom is not a moment, you know, that it is, you know, when we were during apartheid, they used to say the natives are restless. And I realized that freedom is a restless place itself, that we still remain restless.
Absolutely.
We still want to, there's a thing we're still searching for, we're going towards. So yeah, having grown up in that time helps me to think of my work as a capsule for memory, but also a kind of machine that can transport us to possible futures.
Lovely.
Yeah.
I love that. That is amazing. It is so true. Music and creativity and art allows us the opportunity to kind of reach that expansive side of ourselves. And when it's brilliant, it really allows your soul to, rather your spirit to soar. And I think that's what you're saying. And I think that's such a fantastic thing that you have to offer the world. 3 of your 4 solo albums were produced during or released during election years. Was that a coincidence?
That was definitely a coincidence.
Okay, like a coincidence.
I know, I've been asked this question before, and people would love for me to say that I planned it. But I think that I'm always in the interrogation of our freedom, of our blackness, memory, trying to grab things that seem to be slipping away, digging into the archive, listening to elders. Mamleta Mbulu is one of my greatest inspirations.
Thank you.
She's obviously one of the great pantheon of South African music. You cannot speak of South African or African music without mentioning her name. And I even lost I lost what I was trying to say.
It was beautiful.
I looked at her, then I lost everything.
I mean,
yeah, so maybe you can just reconnect me to what I was saying.
It's all beautiful, but I want to remind you, I mean, you also spoke so well of
Yes, we were speaking about the albums.
whether
About
it
whether or
was
not
a coincidence.
it was planned.
Yes.
No, and I didn't plan this. For instance, my last album, Sankofa, we started recording it in August of 2021 and only released it in April of 2024. The work takes time. It takes tens of years to do it. But I think that, thankfully, because I'm always interrogating, moments find me ready.
I love it. I love it. Makes so much sense. Thank you. You've been quoted as having said that your calling is to sing people's joy, to sing people's sadness.
Yeah.
How would you say you use your music to express these emotions?
Well, first of all, I only discovered this later on in my career, obviously. I didn't step in here as a 20-year-old going, I'm here to sing a healing. I think that it's through experience, it's through seeing the effects of my work that I kind of became embodied. I began to embody this thing. The importance of using my voice and connecting, because that's really what art is about. It's about making these connections with people. We don't come into this world to be alone. We come to connect, to have conversations.
Absolutely.
And art gives us the language to do that.
Absolutely.
So how do I use my work to do that? I think I may have said something about it earlier, is that there is an archive that when I arrive onto this earth, the earth makes a sound at me, and I respond to that. So I listen to the earth, I listen to the people around me, and I ingest that and bring it back into the world with my knowledge, my experience, and I remember to be authentic and true. And then when I stand on a stage, I use my voice. We all come out crying, and that's because there's a need for sound to enter into the world so that people know that we are here. And so when I say that I'm here to sing a healing, I'm here to write my people into the story, it is to continue the sound that already exists in the world, that I must leave something here for the next generation to latch onto and continue the sound. I think it's just a general commitment to being an instrument and to being a part of community.
So well said. There is really something to be said for music and how music and art and creativity can really change the environment. I was telling Mum later earlier on that I attended my aunt's memorial service the other day, and it was very somber, a lot of heartbreak, but the music was carrying our pain. And at some point, the music director came onto the scene and said, everyone is so somber. And he decided impromptu to do a rendition of Music in the Air of Mam Leto's. And I was a puddle on the floor because it carried my pain in that moment, but it also carried my joy, because a memorial is about celebrating people. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we're going to be talking about. And how amazing that it was your song and your music that just lifted everyone. You carried our joy and our pain in that moment. So I think it's very important work that creative people do. Margaret, when you first published Daughters of Africa, that was more than 30 years ago.
That was 1992.
Wow, it was groundbreaking at the time. And there were only a few black female writers who were well known. 25 years later, you decided that you were going to republish it, the new Daughters of Africa, which you should all get a copy of, please, outside after this. Tell us about why you decided to do that.
Well, the first volume I did because, as you said, there were just a handful of women of African descent who were well known. I mean, we can name them: Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou. And I would say, yes, they're wonderful. But there are hundreds of others over the centuries around the world, and I wanted to try and give them some space. So I had 200 women of African descent going back to ancient Egypt. And that book came out, and there were writers in it who were not well known at the time, who became well known later. There were writers in it who were well known. And I had a huge bibliographical section at the end, just to say, it's not all that's in this book that you need to read, there is much more. And that book went out of print, and about, in 2019, together with Candice Lacey, who was the editor who commissioned the first volume, we said, let's try and do another one. And let's try and make it have a legacy so that it's not something that people can forget. So we did another collection of I spent about 18 months writing, 6,000 emails. And I wrote to everybody I could think of. People suggested to me saying, we're going to do this volume. and we want there to be a legacy, so let's all combine. And nobody got paid, and we developed a scholarship, which meant that a woman student from Africa gets a free course of study at London University's School of Oriental and African Studies because of this anthology, New Daughters of Africa. And 2 students have come through, and they're still crowdfunding for a third. But I want to say there is this sisterhood. And so from 1992, there were 200 women we showcased there. And in this one, another 200 women, going from a Nigerian feminist born in the 1790s to people born in the 1990s. And it's just shows you how rich the community is. And I think that's what I find empowering, that we're all connected, we're all part of this wonderful sisterhood, this community. And I always remember the person who inspired me to go into the literary world in Britain was a South African writer called Noni Jabavu,
Yes.
who I came across when I was at school in 1961. She was on the cover of a literary magazine. There was this African woman who was part of the British literary scene. She was editing a magazine called The Strand, I think. And she gave me permission to think, well, I could do that. I could be part of that literary scene. So I think that sisterhood, that way we have of empowering each other, it's not that I am the first this or the only that. I want to say, well, if I can do it, so can you.
Yes.
And we're all part of a sisterhood, we're part of a chain, we're there to help each other, make each other stronger. And in fact, that's the title of my collected writing. It's part of the story. We are all part of the story.
Yeah.
We are all part of a rich universe of creatives and activists. And whatever we do, we can try and empower each other. And that's what makes it worthwhile for me, that we're all trying to leave the world a better place than we found it.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's so important to have platforms such as these. You know, there's something that's so powerful that can take place when women gather to have meaningful discourse. So what would you say out of all of that shapes culture?
That is a big question, a good question. We all shape culture. We are all part of the story. We are all a family. I've met family here from... Okay, I was born in Ghana. My mother was born in Ghana. My mother's mother was born in Ghana. But I have family everywhere. I've met new family at this conference, as well as old family. I had family in Barbados, Trinidad, Bahamas, Dominica, Antigua, everywhere, Britain. And I wanted to say all those connections are what makes up culture.
Yeah.
It's not that culture has to be like this or like that.
Right. Absolutely. Thandiswa, in the same way, you follow in the footsteps of some really influential artists in the country, Miriam Makeba, Hugh Masekela, who you collaborated with so beautifully. Given that you've worked with both of them, it's no coincidence that your first solo album was entitled Zabalaza, which translates to rebellion or revolution. What did you learn from them about activism through art? And what are you hoping to model to the next generation of artists and their responsibility in this world?
Yeah. I was 19 years old when I met Mama Miriam Makeba. They had just come back from exile, and they were doing a tour. I can't remember the name of the tour. The first tour, I think you were maybe also part of that tour. Anyway, we were following them around the country. They were doing this tour. And I got to meet Miriam Makeba, and we were young then, and we had done a remake of one of her songs. Well, we had done a remake of Pata Pata. And so, you know, she comes home and she's told, there are these kids who are doing Pata Pata. You should see these children, you know. And so we met her, And, you know, we sat down and we spoke about a couple of things. And then she asked me what I think was probably the most important question that I could have been asked at that age. You know, she just kind of leaned into me and she said, so what kind of artist do you want to be? And, you know, I was young at the time, and I was, you know, we were making kwaito. It's dance music, it's party music, it's young people's music, and we hadn't really started thinking about purpose. And she sparked this idea of purpose in me. And so I started to look at her a lot deeper and look at some of my other idols a lot closer. And for me, once I started to interrogate that question, I realized that I wanted to emulate her. She was the one I wanted to emulate. I mean, growing up in South Africa, we were all singing Whitney Houston, and you know, and so I knew Whitney Houston's discography back and front at 19, and I really just kind of was like, that's what I want to be. One day, I'm gonna get a Grammy, and it's gonna be amazing. I'm gonna thank Whitney Houston and Michael Jackson. And she just really pointed me towards a direction and gave me purpose with that question as a young person. And you know, I had the privilege of meeting all my heroes when I was really young. And I think I had the foresight to listen, which is maybe something some young people don't do. And it's okay, when you're young, not listening is sometimes a good thing. Because that's what we need. We need some creativity from young people. But Brahu wrote me a letter, a very, very long letter that I've lost. I don't lose anything, but I lost that. And in the letter, he said two things that kind of stood out to me. He said, and I was 19 at the time, 19, 20, and he said to me, you know, you have the ability to become the voice of your generation.
Oh, yeah.
And this was 30 years ago.
Wow, coming from Brahu, that's amazing. Yeah.
And I think for me, that was something that made me realize that sometimes it is other people who speak into you what you will become when you're a young person. The importance of elders who can see, you know. So they were the two people that I think, also with Mambusi Mhlongo, you know, Mambusi and Mamleta, these were names that really pointed me towards a certain direction. Once I listened to Mamleta's music, I started training my voice a lot differently. Once I listened closer to Miriam Makeba, my voice became a little different. So I was no longer trying to be like, give me one moment. I can do that. But I really loved how they would say things like, hey, matlabana oxam, betlabana ngengxoxo, bexakwa yingxumba xa.
Oh, wow.
And it's a different way of using your voice, you know, and it really emboldened me as a young woman, as a young African woman, that your voice don't make it soft.
Yes.
Spit it out into the world, you know.
I love that.
Proud, strong, loud.
Yes.
Out, you know, that's what those voices were teaching me. How Brahu sings, how Mamleta sings. These voices really started to just hone my... just hone me as a young singer, as an artist, as a human also. You know, I think sometimes your mentors are not people you speak to about the thing they do, but about life. You know, what is to live? What is to be a part of community? What is to be of service? What does that mean, you know? So, yeah.
And there's something so important about standing on the shoulders of giants. You also, Mamleta, told us a beautiful story about, if you could please share with our audience, about how you first met or you experienced Miriam on stage and what she did for you and your career. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. we were all living in New York, actually, in Miriam Makeba. And all of us were all living together. But I decided that evening to go and see Miriam Makeba perform at Badland. I didn't want to tell anyone. I went there by myself. I took a cab and went there to see her. And Miriam was there leading the pack. She was the star of the show. She was Bill Cosby, the great Bill Cosby, was opening, and an opening act for Miriam Makeba. Yes. And also Mongo Santa Maria was also an opening act for Miss Makeba. And I was standing in the corner there because the place was packed. And they all performed. Bill Cosby did comedy, which I didn't like. It was about football. I knew nothing about football, American football. Mm-hmm. And I waited for Mongo Santa Maria to come on, and she played very well because I love drums, African drums. But when time for Miriam to come on stage hit, I couldn't believe it. I said, she started singing Ndonga Zamakwenkwe. She opened with that.
Yes.
And I was like, my eyes went like, wait, is this Miriam Makeba? Mm-hmm. She had a fabulous gown on. Everything about her was like beautiful. Mm-hmm. She sang everything. She spoke everything. She said everything that I wanted to hear. And when she was done, I said, that's what I want to be when I grow up. I came to America to hear that. That's what I want. And I never stopped.
Amazing. I am so sorry. We really got caught up here and we forgot about questions for the audience, and we don't have time for questions. But I do have one final question for you, and I want to know, you pour so much of your lives into your life's work, producing work that matters, and that work that has had such a profound impact on humanity. But what nurtures your soul? If we are expecting you to come up with this work that allows our spirits to soar, where do you draw from? Margaret, can we start with you?
I draw from people who've gone before me. I love the ability to share, to pass things on. I had a very good friend, a friend of my partner who's here, and she left us at the age of 107 years, 1 month and 4 days. And her saying was also always pass it on. I think that creativity that we can pass on, whatever it is, whether it's learning how to make patties, whether it's to write a poem, whether it's to write a song, that's what keeps you wanting to create and pass it on and be part of that whole story.
Right. Thandiswa?
I think it's that we are in that. There's an ancient Chinese curse I was told of when I was a kid that said, "May you live in interesting times." And I think, we still live in these interesting times. The world is enveloped in war and genocide and hate and so much violence that I cannot remove my hand from the pen. I cannot remove the pen from the paper. Every day there's something to think about, something to wonder if there is change that can be actioned, there's so much going on in the world. And so, as a writer, as a singer, I continue to search for my voice in this noise that's around. How can my voice bring change? How can my voice bring healing? So I think that's the thing that still keeps me going, is that there's still so much life around me that I want to engage with.
Mamleta, you also, you know, when we were having the tea at your house, you spoke about how melodies drop into your head and that you are restless because you've got to give them expression. And I loved hearing that about the creative process. What fuels your creativity and your soul?
I listen to the voice, number one. But I never go to perform or to write a song without that voice, Mveli Nqangi's voice. He always tells me if I'm going the right way. And if I hear the voice in my head, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do, what I'm supposed to write, and what kind of a song is supposed to be. He directs me all the time. What you call God.
Oh. Wow, wow. It has been absolutely phenomenal. You know, my dad, Professor Chabani Manganyi, may his soul rest in peace, is quoted as having said, "In a world that seeks to diminish the black soul, to be oneself fully and unapologetically is in itself an act of defiance." And I think creativity, in a way, isn't it just that? It's about
Absolutely.
being audacious enough
Yes.
to be fully
Yes.
and unapologetically
Yes.
oneself.
Absolutely.
And you ladies have done it phenomenally. Please can we give them a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.